All right, so we got a lot to do in this one. We're gonna start the rebuild now, and it's a shame because this team is honestly, it's we still have a lot of talent on paper anyway, but for whatever reason, can't seem to put it all together and have a winning formula. I mean, when you take a look at the division, we're fourth right now, but that's not as good as it looks. Due to our wild card situation. Even though we're right behind Philly, who is in the second wild card, we're 10 points behind them. It's not likely that we catch them. It is very not likely. And then the same thing goes for Boston, who are in the third divisional spot. I just don't see it happening. They're 9 points ahead of us. How many games are left? 24. I would say we probably need 18 at least, 18 wins minimum to have a hope of clinching a playoff spot. And with the way this team has gone this year, I just don't have too much hope in that, because every time we win a couple of games, we end up losing a couple of games, and it's just been the same story all year basically. So a lot of inconsistency. And then on top of that, the Ottawa Senators, including this year, presuming we don't make the playoffs, have not made the playoffs for 3 years straight. Obviously that year right there, 2041 was the year before we came here, but still, at this point, it's pretty clear that the general makeup of this roster isn't working. And once again, it's a shame because there's a lot of talent on this team. And I mean, when you take a look at some of these other teams, we can match up with the best of them for the most part. I mean, at least ability-wise on paper, but for whatever reason, we just can't win games on a regular basis. That is, like, we're not the worst team in the league by any stretch, but we're not good enough to be making the playoffs either. So it's sort of that limbo position. And right now for us, it's not a fun one to be in because we do not have the prospect pool to be able to continue going on like this. Like, we're not only are we not really succeeding as a team, our team is also pretty old. The majority of our core are 30 or older. Like Ardern 30, Rogers 30, Sidak 29, so he's getting there. 31 for Wieland. Kuzniakov is 30. The captain, Hankin, is 30. Ronchin is 34. He's a huge point producer on our team, or at least he was last year. This year he had I think a 2-month injury or something towards the beginning of the season. So he's been out for a while. Still, like half our roster is 30 or over. And with how little success we've had so far here in Ottawa, I would be very nervous if we waited to do a rebuild. Like, let's say we go into next year with this exact roster and we fail to make the playoffs again. It's going to not only delay our rebuild, but it will make that rebuild itself take longer. Because like I said, most of our assets are pretty old. And I'm not sure if I've shown any of the development reports from this season, but some of our players are regressing really fast. And then with our prospects pool being the way it is, with Sanderson and Standing being the only prospects who I can see making our roster anytime soon. Like, Sanderson and Standing will probably make the roster next year. But besides them, I'm not too high on Schinkel. I mean, I know he's got the 2.5-star ability, but there's a lot about his game that still needs to be ironed out, and nobody else is even close. So it's just not a good situation to be in. So I think I would rather just start the rebuild now, since we're probably not making the playoffs anyway. So I would rather just take a step back this year in order to hopefully take a couple steps forward in the next couple of years or so. So with that being said, we have some trades to make. And the first on his way out is going to be Cody Forester. He has not been good this year. In only 8 games played, he has an .886 save percentage, a lot worse than he was last year. May as well get something for him. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's on a 2-year deal. I would rather just give a chance to a young goalie. So I think we're going to send him to New Jersey for a 5th-round pick. I wasn't able to get much else, so we're going to do that trade. I got a few interesting offers for Aaron Kivihari. Well, they're all basically the same offer. They're all 3rd-round picks from various teams. Kivihari is 37, by far our oldest defenseman. He's on a 1-year deal. He hasn't been that great either. He's been our weakest defenseman for sure. So I think trading him off to one of these teams for a 3rd-round pick is a no-brainer. May as well be LA since they're in the Western Conference. Complete trade. Next, I'll be trading Mitch Knoll. He's on a 1-year deal for $2.65. He hasn't really been too good this year. 56 defensive grade, 60 offensive grade, 14 points, -3. Just not really too impressive, and I don't intend on re-signing him, so may as well get something for him. And we're going to be trading him to Edmonton with 50% of his salary retained. And that's not a big deal because it's only a 1-year deal. We're going to be getting a 4th-round pick back in return. There you go. That trade is done. Mitch Knoll now a member of the Edmonton Oilers. All right, so I changed my mind on Westerland. I was originally going to trade him, but I decided to offer him a contract extension. It wasn't too much more than what he's currently making, and it was only for 3 years length, and he's only 27, so he could be a nice transitional player along with Psyduck, but I think Hacking can go at the draft. And I also originally got an offer for Thomas Boudreau. However, that offer was actually from Edmonton, who we just traded with for Mitch Knoll. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to deal Boudreau here at the trade deadline. I mean, I'm sure someone will take him for the right price, but just maybe not what I was hoping for him. Oh yeah, and Alan Manning. I've offered him a contract extension. He only wanted 2.72 for 6 years, a 6-year deal. I mean, listen, he may not be the most impressive star ability-wise, only a 3, but he's been pretty good over the past couple of years. I think I'm going to trade Ronshin, honestly, because as good as he is, I do want to make sure that we leave some space for Ashley Anderson to make the roster next year. And he's generally the same player type, I would say, as Ronshin is. And I would want him to have a spot in the top 6. Regardless, Ronshin doesn't really have a spot on the team next year with Sanderson coming in. More than likely, anyway. I mean, he's a 3-star ability now, and he is just absolutely tearing up the WHL. 62 points in 37 games played. So, yeah, we have to at least give him the chance. And I don't see why he wouldn't be able to make our roster, honestly. All right, so I was able to get a second out of Winnipeg for this year for Ronshin and the rights to Joel Paul, who's just sort of a throw in there. But yeah, otherwise this trade works. Offer up trade and finalize. And now, given that we only have one goalie on our roster, we are going to need to call someone up, and I think that's going to be Lawrence Stretch. He's 22, 1.5-star talent, but we'll give him a shot, see what he's about. We only have 6 defensemen on the roster, would prefer to have 7, so I think I'll call up probably Turnbull. And we only have 12 forwards on the roster as well, so I'll call up a 13th. I'll call up Mickey Murphy. I'll give him one more chance, but he wasn't too impressive last time. I think as far as trades go, during the trade deadline, I am done. We've already made 4 trades here. One with Winnipeg, LA, the Devils, and the Oilers. Nothing too significant, but we have gotten quite a few draft picks back. We got a 2nd-round pick from Winnipeg, we got a 3rd from LA, we got a 5th from the Devils, and we got a 4th from Edmonton, so quite a few depth picks there. But as far as the rebuild goes, that is, we are nowhere near done. We are going to be definitely making more moves at the draft and probably free agency as well. But for right now, I think that's enough. I basically just wanted to get most of the 1-year deals that I knew I wouldn't be re-signing out of the way, and also players who were just in general underperforming, such as Cody Forester. But I think at the draft, Hankin's gone, and probably several forwards, honestly. However, that does not mean I'm done moves-wise during this trade deadline, because I want to hire a new head coach. And the reason for that is, I mean, I know I've been the head coach ever since we fired Mr. Laverne. But the thing about my coach is that I'm not particularly good at developing prospects, with my coaching ratings all being only at 7. And since we're now moving in a younger direction, I want a coach who is going to be able to develop them properly. So who I'm going to be hiring is actually someone we're pretty familiar with. I believe he was with us. Yeah, he was with us in Rimouski. Phil Manny was in Rimouski at the start of the 2021 season, and he was actually there until 2041, so 20-year stint with Rimouski, and he is now available in the coaching free agency. Coaching prospects is at 20, coaching defense at 16, forwards at 14, defensive skills is at 16. He's just very well-rounded for developing prospects, it seems. Player management at 16, motivation 12, tactics at 15, in-game tactics at 20. He has a defensive style preference, he's physical, balanced everywhere else, basically. So for the time being, I'm going to hire him as an assistant coach, but I do want to now change him to the head coach. I don't know why it didn't give me the option to hire him as a head coach. That was weird. But boom, there we go. Phil Manny, the new head coach of your Ottawa Senators. Now with that being done, we'll move on to the end of the regular season, presuming nothing changes, which I wouldn't expect it to, considering, once again, we're 10 points back of a playoffs. Well, technically 9, but it's a long way off. I don't think we're making it. So let's just go the rest of the season here. Yikes. Pavel Werner out for 6 months with a long-term injury. That hurts. I mean, he's one of our best defensive players. If we had any chances this season, that definitely hurt them even more. Oof. The captain, Kuzniakov. 1 to 2 month injury. All right, so interesting bit in the final game there. Final game of the season. Luke Psyduck had a hat trick there in our win against Boston. So we finished the season 40, 38, and 4. it actually ended up being closer to the wild card than I thought. We only finished 4 points behind Buffalo, but still in the end, we did not make it. And I'm pretty certain there's going to be more trades at the draft. You can count on that because the past 3 seasons have been basically exactly like this one, at least as far as the end result, you know? I mean, last season, obviously, we went on a lot of losing streaks, and that's what ended up killing us in the end. But this year it was more sporadic, like, you know, we would win 2, lose 2, win 1, lose 1, and then lose another, and then win 3, and then lose 3. Like, that's the kind of season it was. It was just really back and forth, win-loss sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it was, you know, it was the same result. So can't exactly make any progress like that. And with how old this team is, we, like I've said over and over, we desperately need to get some more prospects in here. I mean, Sanderson's great. Sanderson, I'm glad I drafted him. He has 92 points in 53 games played in the WHL there. So he will definitely get his chance next year, as well as Colin Standing, I believe. But besides them two, we don't have much else in the way of prospects. So definitely need to move at least a couple of these guys out. I know I want to move Hankin, because I could probably get quite a bit for him, being a 3.5-star offensive defenseman. As for everyone else, I think maybe Jansa could go. There are a lot of guys who I wouldn't be opposed to trading, honestly. Saganiak's not going anywhere. He needs to play out the rest of his days here in Ottawa. That is assuming he doesn't retire. He's already 40. So he very well may just end up retiring, but if he does play, then he's coming back. Barron, even as a 24-year-old, hasn't been too impressive. I mean, he did improve on last season for sure, and overall his ratings are pretty average, honestly. And his best years for development are behind him at this point, so I think he's gone as well. Could probably get like a 3rd-round pick for him. Marple is obviously going nowhere. He's 21 years of age, 3.5-star ability, 4.5-star potential. I'm going to take a look at the team stats now just to see where we were at. So goals for per game, we were actually 12th in the league with a 3.26, and we were in the bottom 10 of the league for goals against per game, so that needs to be better for sure. Although it might get worse before it gets better at this point. Power play was 15th in the league with a 20.4, and the penalty kill was actually 4th in the league with an 83.2. So despite our poor goals against per game, our penalty kill was actually good. Let's see player stats. So Ardern has a career year with 81 points in 78 games played. That is far more than he's had in any other season. So he was definitely a good, especially for that contract. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Rogers with 68 points, 49 for Wieland, 45 for Jansa, 43 for Giroux, 42 for Sidok. So that's better than last season for sure. Yeah, he had 28 last season. So that's more along the lines of what I thought he would be. But still, he's produced better in the past. So I would like to see that out of him in the future. Hankin with 37, 32 for Merrifield, 31 for Cerrone, 27 for Barron, 26 for Westerland, 25 for Marple, 23 for Boudreau, 19 for Zaganiuk. I mean, the important thing is for him that he broke Daniel Alfredson's record, so he is now the all-time point scorer for the Ottawa Senators. Altonen was 17, 10 for Coughlin and Coates, 8 for Murphy, 4 for Turnbull, 1 for Grant, and Alan Manning with 77 games played. And he somehow didn't get injured that entire time. 916 save percentage. I'll give it to him, he was consistent. He did exactly what I asked him to. I asked him to be more consistent this year, and he definitely pulled that off. I don't know how in 77 games played, but props to him. I mean, one thing's for sure, he got a lot of development, a lot of playing time. I mean, I guess that, that goes to show how much we leaned on him this year. Anyway, I think we're done here for the time being, and in the next one, we'll start the offseason of the year 2043.